very good evening and welcome to the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar, pleased to be bringing you this show this Friday evening. Now we're going to start our show today with a subject that ordinarily doesn't make it to the top of the news on prime time, but we believe it's crucial, it's very, very important. 5th of September is Teachers' Day. We're celebrating our teachers. We believe they are our frontline warriors, making sure children of this country continue their education even in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic. It's not an easy task, it's not an easy job, and it's often one which is not appreciated enough. So that's our big discussion. On top of the show today, we talk about how teachers are adapting to the new normal, what they need from all of us, and are we doing enough for them as a society. I also have a great interview lined up for you with the CEO of the Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant. He's talking about how privatization of railways is a paradigm shift, but I also ask him if now, in light of the Q1 GDP drop, he thinks that the lockdown, the severe, harsh lockdown at the end of March was a miscalculation. And do stay tuned for a big voice of the day where you will hear from market guru Vijay Kedia on his top picks. But let's come back to our teachers, our heroes. Now in India, we revere our gurus. It's part of our culture. On 5th September, many of you will maybe send a message, call up your teachers who have changed your life. And in every person's life, there is one teacher at least who has defined who they become. But what really is the plight of our teachers? It's very important to look at this today. We are in a situation where our teachers are not paid nearly enough. They have a lot of work on their hand. Our teacher-child ratio is not one of the best in the world. It can definitely improve. We have a large number of teacher vacancies that have to be filled up when it comes to government schools. And then to top it all, we have had a global pandemic which has shifted the paradigm. In the middle of this, it's important to appreciate the fact of how teachers have adapted. And I'm not just talking about teachers in high-end schools who have managed to move to online teaching. Believe me, it's not easy. But also to those who have gone out of their way to ensure that children without devices, without internet connection, do not miss out. Today, we pay salute and hats off really to all of these teachers. Joining me on the discussion today to speak about the new normal for the educational profession and for this entire space is Disha Nawani. She is Dean School of Education at TIS. I'm joined by Meeta Sengupta, Education Strategist, and Jyothi S, Assistant Professor of English from Tumkur University, joining us today. Welcome to all of you. Wish you all a happy Teachers' Day in advance. Let me start straight away by getting a view from you, Ms. Disha Nawani, about the kind of challenges that teachers have faced during the coronavirus pandemic and the whole switch to online education as technology changes so rapidly.
So I'd like to lay the context first and say that teachers, it's a very strange situation that our teachers are in. I mean, it's sort of a paradox. On one hand, you celebrate them, you worship them, you revere them. On the other hand, you easily ridicule them. So the entire frame with which you look at teachers and teachers' work teaching is kind of rooted in mistrust and suspicion. The teachers are people who become teachers because they don't have anything better to do or they don't get into any other profession. Similarly, when you talk of teaching is supposed to be a soft option or an easy option. So it's a very strange situation to be in where on one hand parents and other people respect you and they entrust the responsibility of the children in your hands. On the other hand, they also ridicule you and they kind of constantly. So there's a lot of lack of trust. There's lack of respect for the teaching profession, teachers, and especially if you're teaching in schools or at the elementary school level, you're easily dismissed as being probably not requiring enough skills to be a teacher. So if you're nurturing, care and love and all of that is kind of considered important. And the way teachers, if you look for quite some time now, the way they've been robbed of their professional autonomy, they have very little role to play in what to teach, how to teach, who assesses them, who decides their pace. all these decisions have been taken long time back by the bureaucracy or by somebody else who's not a teacher. And now you have micromanaging of teachers, you have CCTV cameras being installed in the room, the classroom, you have biometric attendance. There is this whole thing of accountability. The teachers need to be accountable because they assume that teachers are not accountable, and especially the government school teachers receive a lot of flack, unfortunately, that it's assumed that because they are government servants, they have regular tenure, salaries and all of that, they become complacent and they don't really teach. So in this, it's not a very happy state to be a teacher, especially a government school teacher now, because the world is kind of gunning for you. And this has been caused to a large extent by the assessment survey, which constantly keeps saying that children are not learning enough, and especially those who study in government schools, they are the ones who are really lag behind. But in this whole shift in it's been difficult because online teaching, it's not the same as teaching in a classroom. Not that teaching in a classroom is perfect, but certainly to be able to, the fact that you have to relate to children, the fact that you need to understand the context they come from, the fact that you need to have an eye contact, the fact that you respond to the queries, include their experience in the classroom, all that is not happening. And the parents, because the teaching is happening at homes, parents also kind of quite hyper. And I've heard of instances where parents have ridiculed the accent or the ways teachers teach. So it's not an easy situation for them. Plus, they've got these additional jobs, surveys, and all of that which is happening, which the teachers are burdened with a lot of work, which has nothing to do with teaching. So it's like it is tough. So the stresses of the online teaching, plus you have your other work which you are asked to do, plus the fear of
challenges have increased. Yes.
Challenges have increased, yes.
Yes, challenges have increased. Challenges have increased for teachers. Yes, Meeta Sengupta, I just want you to give us an idea of how different it has become, because some of us are on the other side. We are the parents, marveling at how the teachers are coping, also concerned if our children are actually managing to deal with an online situation. What unique set of challenges have cropped up because of the situation we are in right now? We've had maybe an academic year that will go by without at least younger children stepping into the classroom. But everyone, the system, the schools, the parents will expect that their learning doesn't suffer.
And learning, sadly, is bound to suffer. But learning and learning outcomes are not necessarily what we should be aiming for right now. To answer your question, it's a double-edged sword. It's a very difficult question. Teachers should be commended thoroughly for completely leaping into the breach. I mean, there was absolutely nothing to support them. There was no infrastructure. There was just some commercial things available out there, most of them thankfully available for free. They knew that they would be leaving out 2/3 of their students, the teachers as a community, and yet they said, we will do what we can. Tell us what buttons to press. Tell us whether we can do this on the phone. There was a picture of a teacher who had her notebook on top of a fridge cabinet. And teachers have innovated. For 20 years, we have been talking technology for education. For 20 years, there has been pushback saying we will not change, with good reason, because research had proved that learning online, pure learning online, does not improve learning outcomes. We know that. And yet, with all that, all that pushback left our teachers unprepared, left our schools unprepared. But when it came to the crisis, they responded. Now, did they respond as well as we could expect it? Expectations are infinite. And I think the primary job of a teacher in the middle of a COVID crisis is to maintain continuity. For a school system, I think the primary task is to maintain continuity. For the teacher is to provide that duty of care. And that duty of care will be delivered via the content. But as long as there is some progress happening, some value addition, something that is improving every day, I think any learning loss that happens is something that we will have to cope with later on. There will be some learning loss with the best of efforts. Now we have more good news over here though. The teachers who are in the best schools, that doesn't necessarily mean the richest schools, but we have excellent teachers across many, many schools. They have actually been doing a fantastic job of teaching and learning. So what is happening over here is many of the mistakes that we were making that were hidden in the four walls of the classroom are also becoming more obvious. And let's not be afraid of that, because we all want to do better for our students. So let us find a way to understand what we can do better. This is a great opportunity for us. Teachers, of course, poor things, have been asked to replicate the classroom. The classroom does not replicate well. You can't have a roll call on an online space. You cannot lecture for more than 2.5 to 3 minutes. Your voice has to have effervescence. It's more than engagement. You have to work a little bit differently. It's a big ask of teachers. But I must agree with you, this is time to thank them for what they've done and support them with more materials, with more support, with more training.
You know, I must share this. I have actually been witness to what teachers have gone through, and it's not easy in these online classes, getting the children to sit in one place, stop screen sharing. Maybe there's some parents hovering in the background, you know, ensuring everything is okay. Snacks are being proffered because the child is at home. It's not been easy. It's not been easy, and which is why hats off to those teachers who are making it happen. Ms. Jyothi, I just want to get your view on, you know, this obviously will not last forever. Children will come back to the classrooms. But do you think it's also been an opportunity for the teaching community to discover different ways of, you know, communicating with students and imparting knowledge?
Okay, first of all, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. So I'm quite passionate about what I do. So I find teaching is truly a community service. We teachers have braced up to different situations, and this is one such situation where we have to adjust ourselves to new mode of teaching. So as I teach in a rural university, so we have students facing a lot of issues. Like first thing is that they cannot afford smartphones, and even if they can afford, they have network issues, and even if there is network, then heavy data consumption is a problem when we take classes continuously. And one thing that is really different from the real classroom situation is that online classing is more of teacher centric, not a student centric, and so that's why so here the teacher has to perform and the students remain spectators. There is not much interaction. But as other panelists said, we don't have much choice. We have to adjust, and we have to see, we have to get back to our classes again. At the same time, this opportunity has given us a lot of scope for self-introspection. So here, one thing we have understood as teachers is that we have to update ourselves with the changing scenario, and we have to update with the technology. And so we have a different role to play here. Other than just face to face, this is something different, and we never expected this. So it is a different situation, and so we have to be more responsible towards teaching now than before. So because when the real classroom, when teaching happens, so professional parents of today, especially when both the parents are working, by and large, trust the mentoring of their children on teachers, and teachers fill this vacuum of absence of guidance of parents or a big close-knit family. So classrooms more than homes, we are looking forward, because when we have too much information available outside the classroom, what does teaching mean in a digital age? So there is a paradigm shift in the role of a teacher from being the center of information to a catalyst of transformation of a student from a caterpillar into a butterfly. So in a classroom, students learn, relearn, and unlearn simultaneously. So what happens in a modern classroom is not just one-way dissemination of information, but unfortunately, this is what's happening in online classes. But raw information is already available outside the classroom in digital and non-digital forum. And so what we require to do in a classroom is the dissection of information through in-depth discussion and analysis. So as Derrida would say that we have to deconstruct different interpretations available and arrive at the most appropriate interpretation, especially in these times of fake information. So I'm looking forward to going back to real classroom situation where we can interact and engage in real discussions and deliberations with the students, where classroom teaching experience becomes more of a student centric than teacher centric as it is happening in the online mode. So we are looking forward to go back to the real classroom.
Tamanna,
I think that's a beautiful thing you've just said, Ms. Jyothi, that the teacher's role is to transform the child from a caterpillar into a butterfly. Yes, please come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what
Was that
Jyoti said.
Meeta who wanted to come in? Ms. Meeta? Yes.
I'll wait for Disha and then I will take my turn.
Okay. So basically, we often have a tendency to look at teachers' work or teaching
Ms. Disha.
in isolation. And that is obviously problematic because you have to see pedagogy or the way the teacher teaches in class in relation to the assessment and in relation to the curriculum and in relation to the resources or textbooks that she has. So you can't have a teacher, you can't talk of pedagogy or innovating pedagogy if there are confines within the space within which she works. So for instance, if assessment is based on textbook knowledge, the content of textbook, she's bound to read out or ensure that you know what is there in the textbook. So a lot of what happens in the classroom depends on the kind of resources that you have, depends on the kind of limitations that you have, depends on the kind of assessment that you have for these students. And then the other thing which is happening now, again for some time now, is that based on children's performance in these large-scale assessments, teachers' performance is being tested, and that's a huge problem. So if you say the child is performing badly, the teacher is to be blamed. So there are unilateral connections being made between students' performance and teachers' performance, and you just throw the teacher out or you kind of sack her. So that's a problem. So teachers, when they are in the classroom, it's not that they're independent or they have that kind of autonomy, professional autonomy, or even that autonomy or freedom to innovate and do things. If you can to a small extent, yes. But if you're talking in terms of policy, then you must understand that all these things are interlinked with each other. The aims of education, the focus in the curriculum, the teaching planning resources that you use, the kind of textbooks that you have, the kind of assessments that you have, and what the focus of assessment is on. So all these things are really interlinked, and which most of us fail to understand, and we kind of pile on to the teacher alone, and that's a problem.
Am I okay to go, Tamanna?
Right.
Can I carry on with this?
Yes, Ms. Meeta, please come in.
Thank you, because it's
today's the day for the teachers to speak out. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I think it's amazing how much teachers have achieved given their constraints. And I think both of them were absolutely right, because the concept of digital pedagogies is new to all of them. And let me now draw a line between crisis learning, which is what we are in the middle of, crisis online learning, and regular digital pedagogies, which have been proved to be effective, let's say, even in remote situations, using blended learning. Hybrid learning techniques are things that are coming in now, but blended learning itself has a fairly long and sophisticated history of evolution. We know how it works, how it doesn't. So one thing we know for sure is you can't manage without a good teacher. You need the teacher to inspire and hold the center. But there is a lot that you can do, and I'm going to use slightly technical terms, in synchronous and asynchronous ways. So for a teacher to lecture for 40 minutes to 40 students, this 40 into 40 model had been evolved by some administrator a long time ago, and that was necessary in a BRICS environment. Timetabling is one of the most scary things in a school administration system, almost impossible. But now that you are in digital space, so I have run classes of 60 students, admittedly all of them were professors, and I was teaching them a specific methodology. And we went through a very, very interactive set of classes. This was a series of 3 or 4 courses. So it's not just that the teacher will need to continue teaching, but we have to let go of the old ways. And the new ways are not approved by anybody. Now, if a teacher is part of a system, there is a certain limit to how much they will dare to, or they are enabled to, experiment in their school system, and how much support they get. So, for example, if you're on a Zoom system, and others are on Microsoft Teams, and others use different companies, Zoom allows for breakout rooms. Now, breakout rooms are an excellent tool for activities, but it works really well. For example, if you have 6 or 7 sections, one section teacher is managing the central conversation, and 6 sections are managing 6 section teachers are managing 6 breakout rooms.
Right.
Now you have to break up the teaching system as if it was a piece of Lego, beautifully constructed building in Lego, and you have to arrange them differently. This is not the job of teachers. Teachers they're not supposed to do that, nor have they been told how to actually deliver the parts that are incredibly doable over there and other parts that will engage students in different ways. We need to support our teachers more so that they know what to do. I mean, just the tone of voice. The tone of voice that you use right now, Tamanna, it's very high energy, it's very engaging.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine any child walking away from a session that's being run by you. But that's work that's gone into voice modulation, etc. And teachers have not been taught that. That's not been part of the expectation. So we need to grow up into the digital space.
Yes. Yes. I hope our viewers are glued to this conversation, this fantastic conversation with all of these teachers. You know, this has also been about experiences, and I want to just go around and get one personal sort of experience that all of you have had during this entire lockdown situation. Ms. Jyothi, if I can start with you. One real challenging moment and learning experience for you as an educator.
See, for me, getting into this new kind of mode of interaction with the students was quite challenging, especially as I teach in a rural institution based, because getting connected to the students itself is the biggest challenge for me. And again, so usually I want my classes to be very interactive, but here suddenly when I want my students ask questions and have some kind of interruptions, there is a network problem. So this is the challenge. So I'm not able to have that kind of interaction which I would like to have in every session. So that's the biggest. So somehow we are just pushing ahead with this kind of situation till the classes resume. So that is the biggest challenge for me.
This is yes, and in fact it is network issues is something which is a reality of all of our lives. Ms. Disha, any one experience you'd like to share with us, a learning experience for you or something which was challenging during this entire transition time?
No, I teach in a university and we already have a blended program. So, but for me personally, if you want to know, is that I use a lot of wit and humor and sarcasm in my class. And I teach curriculum in school and papers which require you to root them in a certain context. So I use a lot of wit, sarcasm, and humor. And then the trouble is that you need to know whether students have got that and they're not misunderstanding you. They shouldn't get the opposite of what you're trying to say. I think that's a bit of a challenge. Besides lots of other challenges, I mean, it's become very invasive. People assume that you're free all the time, and there's an assumption that you have space and net connectivity. So there are huge challenges, and then those are fairly well recognized and fairly well acknowledged.
Mine is actually quite funny, I have to say. And you spoke
about. Come in with what your big learning has been.
Sorry, was that to me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
No, you were asking for a funny story. I have to tell you, I was running an academic seminar and exactly the same thing happened. Somebody who had just emerged from a bathroom was in the background. This was live, this was recorded, and we were having a very serious discussion. And you sort of learn to just carry on as if this is normal life. And I think maybe for the first time that chasm between school and learning and home life, which maybe that should not have been a gap, is now being closed. It's more real now over here. So I think my big learning from this one is, let us accept this new reality of our integrated lives. We talk about work-life balance. There is a learning life balance that is beginning to emerge here, and let's observe and learn from it. Let's embrace this change.
Wow, that must have been quite an experience. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you to all of you wonderful teachers, all the ones out there that are watching. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and wish and greet that teacher who has made a huge difference to your life. It's not just about going into a classroom and learning what's in a book. These are the people that mold our characters, our personalities, and our futures. Thank you to all of you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.